Welcome to the dojo, everybody. Come on in, take off your shoes, and take a seat on the mat. And welcome to a monthly series that we're putting out called Do This Now. And so the idea around this is that if you're looking to grow in your abilities to achieve your goals as a hunter, um, then do this now each month to reach those goals. And really, and I don't want anybody to shy away from this podcast because I think all of us can use this to learn and to develop. But the idea around this was for individuals who haven't gotten that first wall mounter yet, who haven't gotten that buck that they want to put up on the wall. Um, and so the idea is to do this now to have success. But the truth is, if we all do this now each month, then it'll actually help all of us. Even if you already have multiple bucks on the wall, it's kind of a refresher course, and you can utilize this information to still go out and achieve your goals. And so each month we'll put this out. We'll kind of slide these in between our regular podcast episodes, and it'll be pretty fun. I'm really hoping that at the end of the season this year, we'll have a few listeners reach out and say, "Hey, we did this each month, and we're able to, get my first buck and put them on the wall." And we could probably interview some people and talk about that. But this is also a way of keeping whitetails 365, right? I know that my success rate exponentially went up after I started focusing on deer all year round instead of just in September. So um, let's just dive right into this. So January is that time of year where everybody starts to create their new year goals, and that's going to be no different for us this month. So in January, set your goals now for the year, and you're going to be more successful. I put something together here. It's nothing earth-shattering or I would say revolutionary, but it is a method that I've used to create goals, and it's helped me be pretty successful. I write goals for hunting every year. I like to challenge myself that way. And some of them I achieve, some of them I don't. And when I don't, I just kind of reassess and make sure I still want that goal. And maybe it starts to spread out over multiple years for me in some cases. But there is a formula that I've used and I've adapted and changed a little bit. And so the original formula is called the SMART goals. All right, SMART is specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and then timely. So I've changed them around a little bit for this process because I think some of those letters are out of order. And so we'll just dive right in. We'll get started. But you know, the first letter is S in our goal formula, and that's for specific. We have to be very specific about what we're trying to achieve. So let me first give you an example of something that's not specific. I want to bag a big buck this year. Well, what's big? I mean, big is you know really up to the eye of the beholder, really. Um, I've had a lot of fun shooting 120-inch bucks. And I've got a friend who shoots 150s and up, and a 120 wouldn't be fun for him. So big, we need to be more specific than that. Um, so is it inches that you're looking at? Do you want to kill your first 100-inch buck? Are you looking to kill your first Pope and Young? Maybe you've been at this for a while, and you're raising the stakes all the way to Booner. You know what specifically? How many inches are you looking for in an animal? Maybe it's age class. So maybe you're looking to bag your first mature buck. And what's mature for your area? Is it 3.5-year old? Is it 4.5-year old and up? Be specific. Maybe just looking to bag your first buck. And I think first buck can be specific if it doesn't matter to you. If it doesn't matter that it's 20 inches or, 150 inches, you're going to shoot it no matter what. That's fine. That's a very specific goal, Maybe it's your first buck with your bow. That's very specific as well. Um, Beyond like bagging your buck, there's other goals that we can use during this process. So maybe you want to go out of state this year. What type of terrain do you want to hunt? Be specific. Is it open prairie, big woods, hill country? Is the goal to find bigger bucks than in your home state? So, looking at that, are you going to go to Iowa, Illinois? Are you heading to Ohio Hills? Um, I think, what skills do you need or want to further develop this year? This is a time to set those goals as well. Do you want to develop your woodmanship skills? Do you want to be more proficient with your bow? Maybe you're really comfortable shooting at the 30 yards, but you haven't gotten it, grouped into 2 inches or 3 inches out at 40 yards. And you need to start doing that. How's your scouting skills? Are they where you want them to be? Do you want to learn how to harvest a deer with a different weapon? Maybe you're going trad this year. These are all specific goals, So the more specific you get, the more obtainable these goals are going to be. So moving to the next one, they got to be measurable. We've got to be able to see progress. We got to be able to measure progress. I like to do that by setting milestones. I like to set 3 or 4 milestones for each goal. Okay. And we're going to walk through this process at the end. So hang in there to the end. I also have, I should have mentioned this right off from the get-go, but I have this sheet that if you DM me, I'll send it to you. Okay. So identify 3 to 4 milestones that will let you know that you're heading towards achieving your goals. All right. You don't want to leave it up to chance before the season gets here. That's just getting lucky, So if you're not measuring, how are you going to know where you're at in the process? This is a super hard part of the goal setting process, is to write these milestones out. And I want you to take enough time to think through this. You should have milestones leading up to the season, and you should have milestones in the season. And so what do I mean by that? Well, let's say that we want to harvest a buck. And we're going to go through this in the actual, we're going to do an example of this, but let's say we want to harvest a Pope and Young buck. What milestones do we need to have during the off season? Well, possibly, scouting, laying down cameras, finding a picture, or laying our eyes on a Pope and Young buck by this time, by July. I really want to know I've got a few targets to go after. But I also need to have them in season. So, season gets here. Am I still getting photos of that class of deer? If the answer is no by opener, then I've got to adjust, right? Am I seeing the sign that I think a deer of that caliber would put down? So I'm in season scouting now, and I'm looking for rubs of that caliber deer, or most importantly, probably tracks of a large buck. If I'm not seeing those, if I'm not identifying sign laid down within the season, that would be a milestone I need to adjust in order to get my goals. Maybe that means I have to go somewhere else. Maybe that buck has moved on or he's been taken. So anyways, milestones are very important. You want to set them leading up to the season, and you want to have some within the season as well. The next one is R for realistic. Are my goals actually obtainable? So I've set my goals, 2 to 3 goals. I've made measurables for them. Is the goal itself realistic? Can I achieve it? Are the measurables, the milestones, are they achievable? Are they realistic? So if you are looking for your first buck to put on the wall, you've never put a buck on the wall, you've never shot a buck over 100 inches, but yet you set a goal to shoot a booner, that might be unrealistic for you. And maybe you live in a state where there's not a lot of booners running around. That might be an unrealistic goal for you. And you want to set them where they're achievable, and it's a fine line, but yet not too easy as well. So if you've already shot a 100-inch buck for multiple years, maybe you want to move that up to a 120-inch buck or 130-inch buck. For me, I said earlier that I've shot a lot of 120-inch bucks, and it's true. And I'm at a point now where, I'm interested. I've shot in bigger bucks than that as well, but I'm looking to have more consistency, in the 135, 140-inch range. And those are some of the goals that I'm setting for myself this year. I'm stretching myself, but I'm not going into, only shooting bucks over 150 inches, because, honestly, in my journey, I've only seen a few that are 150 inches and over. So, that 135 inch, 140 inch is very obtainable for me. But it's also a challenge still. So, um, if your goal is to hunt out of state this year, is that a realistic goal for you? Maybe the goal isn't, it needs to be stretched out. Maybe it's not 1 year because your finances right now aren't going to allow you to go out of state. Maybe the state that you want to go to is like Iowa, and you have to obtain, you know, 4, 5, 6 points in order to get into the zone that you want to get into. So that goal has to be stretched out. And you can't say, hey, I'm going to go to zone 5 in Iowa in my first year with no points. That's not realistic. So it's got to be realistic, obtainable, but it also needs to stretch you for sure. Now, the next part um, is super important, and that's putting a time boundary to your goal. If you set goals and you don't set a time boundary, I need to achieve it by this time. Um, and I would say that that's true with your milestones as well. They should have a time boundary in each goal. Then you're just wishing upon a star. You're hoping. I call those someday goals. If you don't put time on them, it'll be someday, and someday never comes. And so for me, I remember this early on in my career. I would say things like, I'm gonna get a Pope and Young buck one day. And I never put a time limit on that. I would say, and I hunted with a group of friends, and we would say, we're going out of state this year. For sure, we're going out of state. And I actually wouldn't say this year. We said we're going to go out of state someday. And 10 years later, we finally went out of state. And once I started going out of state, that's when I started having a ton of fun hunting and achieved a lot of success. So it's kind of sad that I didn't put a time limit to and get out to it sooner. So you got to put a time boundary on your goals and your milestones. And we're going to walk through this together. Okay. And again, I got this sheet for you. If you DM me on Instagram at um, I think it's Great White Mobile Hunter, just Great White Mobile Hunter. Then I will send you this. Or actually, if you do it on the podcast, uh, the Mobile Hunters Dojo. So at the Mobile Hunters Dojo, I will send you this sheet. So the next part then is action items. So you set a goal. Okay. You've developed some milestones to go with that goal. You have a specific deadline to achieve that goal, and you have deadlines to achieve your milestones. Now you need actionable items. What are you going to do to reach those milestones? Which, when all of your milestones have been achieved, your goal has been achieved. So action items are steps that you take to get you closer to achieving your goal. Okay. They need to move you closer to your milestones, and then your milestones move you closer to your goal, right? So let's walk through the process here. Let's walk through setting one specific goal together. And I'm going to share my screen on this one. Okay. So right here, we have a specific goal. Let's say that our specific goal is to shoot um, 100-inch buck this year. Let's say that's our goal. We haven't shot in one yet. That's our goal. So our deadline is, we think that's attainable. We think 100 inches is obtainable. We've seen bucks before out in the woods. We kind of got an idea of what we're doing here, but we haven't done it yet. So that's going to be our goal. It's going to stretch us. Our deadline, this one, let's say it's by the end of the 2024 season. Okay. So we're going to write that in this section here. Let's make some milestones. Okay. So our milestone, maybe milestone number one is finding property to hunt that holds a 100-inch buck. Let's say you've been hunting, your aunt's 20 yards, or excuse me, 20 acres, and you've never seen, a 100-inch buck ever run through there, and you've been hunting it for 5 or 6 years. So maybe milestone number one is to find new hunting ground. Okay. And let's put a deadline on that. Let's make sure that we have plenty of time to do some scouting and everything. So by the end of February, we are going to identify where we're hunting. We're going to find some public land and do that. So milestone number one, find some new land to hunt. Our deadline is going to be by the end of February. So actionable item number one, man, I'm going to download OnX. I'm going to download OnX and sign up so I can find some public ground, Maybe actionable item number two, maybe it's not just public. Let's spread out our options a little bit and call some other family members and see if they have any property for us to hunt, right? And then actionable item number three, once I find that public land, maybe I'm going to do a drive-by. I'm not going to go in and scout it a bunch, but I'm going to go drive by and just make sure that it looks, looks good to me. Milestone number two, well, we got to find the bucks, right? So milestone number two, I'm gonna do some postseason scouting, okay? And my deadline is before green up, right? So postseason scouting before green up. Actionable item number one is I'm gonna do some map scouting of that area that we decided that we're gonna hunt. And I'm gonna drop some pins in areas that I want to go check out. Maybe actionable item number two, and maybe this should have been number one, is that I'm gonna walk the perimeter of that property so I can just kind of see how the deer are moving in and out of that property. And then actionable item number three, maybe I'm going to walk around and I'm going to identify the pressure. I'm going to mark down, all the other tree stands that are on that property. So then milestone number three is I actually want to lay my eyes on a 100-inch buck, So the deadline for that is really, by July, I want to know that I got something to hunt. So actionable item number one is maybe I'm going to throw out some trail cameras and run a trail cam program. And I want those out by June, So in May, I'm going to run and put those out. Actionable item number two is this summer, I'm going to go out and I'm going to glass. And I'm going to glass in these fields until I get my eyes on a few of those bucks. And then actionable item number three, maybe once I get my eyes on them a little bit, I'm going to go back and do a little bit of summer scouting and just try to lay them down, like get their area down a little bit. So then milestone number four. So now it's starting to get, let's say, some in-season. I want some in-season, I want to lay my eyes on these target animals in season. And so the deadline for that, I would say by mid-October, I really want to be, knowing that I'm in the game. If by the middle of October, I'm not feeling like I'm in the game, I need to readjust. I need to move my milestones and my goals and my action items around a little bit. So let's say mid-October is our deadline. Action item number one, I'm going to move my cameras to scrapes. Maybe I do that in the beginning of October. And maybe I need to add some cell cams so I can go in and not disturb the area as much. Maybe I need to do some in-season glassing too, right? If I haven't seen and those bucks, and making sure that they're still in the area. So that's just really quickly. That's just kind of, I don't know if any of that made sense, but so specific goal again was to bag a 100-inch buck. We talked about identifying property to hunt. We talked about scouting that property. We talked about laying eyes on a couple 100-inch bucks before the season, and then in season we are looking for sign or actually being able to get a picture of those bucks by mid-October, else we're going to readjust our goals. So this sheet here that you see, I have this. You can hit me up at on Instagram at the Mobile Hunter Dojo, and I will send this to you. There'll be a link. I'll have all that in there. I'll have a link on this podcast so you can find my handle, or you can, me personally on Instagram at Great White Mobile Hunter, and I will send this out. We're going to do this every week, or excuse me, every month. So this is the Do This Now series. I really appreciate you guys sticking through with me. Let me know what you thought. I'd love to hear about it. DM me. Let me know what you think about this, and if you have any suggestions. Thanks a lot. We'll be together soon at the dojo.